Yeah. Say something. What can I say? Well, welcome. When do I start? Okay, I'm waiting for you, Q, and I'll start. This is quite suspense. Okay, good. So, hi everybody, and welcome to this launching. And this time it's for world record holders. So it's this book. My name is Guy Delisle, comic book author. I've done many books with Don and Corneli. Now, I think this must be like 10th who's been translated. So welcome, and this is my second time doing a presentation like that live on the internet. And the first time I was at my home, which is not where I work, and I thought for the second launching, I would do it in my studio. So this is where I work on this little table, which is good enough for me because when you have a bigger table, you just spread more stuff, and with a small table like that, I have to be concise and focus on my stuff, and I don't spread all the paper all over. So just to give you a context of that book, World Record Holder, it's a bunch of short stories that I've done a long time ago. Some of these are dated from 1998. So they were actually all stories that are previous from my big books, like my first books, which were Shenzhen. These were short stories that were published in a magazine in France, and that's how I started doing comic books, basically. So this is like historically the beginning of my my career. I don't like that term, but it was published in the magazine. It was called Lapin, and it was in that form at the time. So it was black and white, and there were all sorts of author, French author mostly. And for me, it was a very good time, and it was a very good experience because I would try all sorts of stories, all sorts of different way of drawings, and I was doing these short stories while I was working as an animator professionally. So making a living with animation and doing short stories in that magazine, basically for fun. And I thought I would do that for the rest of my life. But then I got more and more involved in comic books, and these short stories became bigger and they became books. And I had the chance to now make living with comic books. So that magazine has changed over the years. Now it's actually, at one time it was very small like that. They've never stopped publishing it, which is great. And now the format has completely changed because it's in that big magazine format, and it's still called Lapin. Yeah. So this one was about dogs, as you can see the title here, chien. And it's really crazy, the presentation. And I haven't participated to that format recently, actually. But for me, as a young comic book artist, it was in '99, we were still publishing comics. And now it's mostly on the net and on the internet. Why not? But to have something published on paper was a lot of fun because you would work on, you would try something like some black and white technique and some different narration for 2, 3, 4 page. And a few months after, boom, you would have your story in the magazine and you would see, okay, the impact, and you would see the other ones, like most of my friends were doing comics. And it was like a meeting every 3, 4 months of, okay, what have they done? And it was a very exciting and creative time for me because I would try this and I would try that. And I would see what the other ones were trying. And I'm talking about comic book artists that now are very famous. David Bay, Lewis Trondheim, Christophe Blain was in there. All of the big ones were actually in the Lapin magazine. It was really the place where a lot of things has started back in the time. So in my studio, the way I work on these stories are very different from one to the other. Now, mostly what I do, maybe I'll show you afterwards, but it's pen and ink on paper. I'm still working on paper. Actually, in this studio that I share with 10 other artists, I think I'm the only one now who works on paper. All the other ones are on computer, Cintiqs and stuff like that. But for me, I don't know. I just really enjoy to work on regular paper. It's slower than having a Cintiq, I'm sure, but I just like the feeling of the paper. Not so much, I don't want to be in front of a computer all day long. I mean, I spend enough time on computer that I don't want to have more in front of a screen. So that's basically the reason. So yeah, these stories in that magazines, I've looked for a few ones, and I still have them actually. I haven't sold a lot of my artwork, so that's why I have them. And this one was like was called How to Do Nothing, and it was just pen and ink, and I think I've used the computer to do the color afterwards. This is a technique I've used mostly after that when I've done the Burma Chronicle and Shenzhen. But the fun thing going from one story to the other is you can change the narration. So I've tried actually very different narrations, like no text. And I remember that's how I started with the book Aline and the Others, and Albert and the Others, which was just one experience of, oh, let's try to do a story where there's no text and there's going to be like a relation with men and women, with the attraction and the envy. And then I did a second one, and then it became a book. So most of my comic books start like that. Same with Shenzhen. Actually, the comic book Shenzhen, which is like a traveling blog or of the journey I've done when I was in China. Started as a short stories. It's not in that because after a while I did one short stories about China, and then I did a second one. And then after a while, we realized that people really enjoyed it, and maybe we could do a book with that. So it became a book. So this is why, well, I really like that book because it's for me the beginning of a lot of things. The beginning of Albert and the Others, the beginning of my traveling books, and I really encourage the young people when you do comics to try different stories. Don't start with a book, start with the short stories and go in different directions. And once it's published, you see the result, and then it's a lot of fun to think, well, I can do something more like that or more like that. Like for example, I have in that book that story. I forgot the title, but it's just 2 pages like that, and it's just 3 strips that goes like that, 1, 2, 3, and I was reading the TV program, and they were doing the everyday for the week. It was not Dynasty, but it was a television series like that, and they would resume every episode. Like John met Jackie, and then they have a problem with their daughter. But as I was reading that, I thought, well, this is actually, when you don't know the story, it was a bit surreal. And so I did the whole week, starting from Monday to Friday. And to illustrate that, I've just put all these different characters that are mentioned in the TV program resume of the day. And it was a lot of fun. So it was actually just improvising all these faces and put all their name together. So it doesn't make a story. I wouldn't be able to to make a book out of that. But as an experience for just a different type of narration, it was a lot of fun. And I wish I would do more of that, but it actually takes a lot of time to sit down and try something different, and then you go like that. So right now I'm starting a new book, so I don't have time to stop and do short stories, because I don't have that ability to jump from one project in the morning and another project in the afternoon. Some of my friends that do comics do that, but I don't know. When I'm starting on the project, I just think of it all the time, and then I don't work very fast. So it's like pushing a big boat, and when it's starting, you just have to keep pushing, kind of. And for me, that's the way it goes. And I cannot jump from one story to the other one. And so I'm talking to you from the south of France. I live in Montpellier. That's where I've been based for almost 25 years now, I guess. And it's really hot, so I have that fan burning on. Yeah, I need to take a sip of water once in a while, of course. Yeah, so that other story, which is so I'm gonna. Oh, I missed the question. How do I see the question now? Because I have to read that very quickly. Can I see it on the left? Well, I'm stuck now because there was a question, but I missed it. Discussion. Maybe I can switch on. Yeah, okay, I got it. Here. Okay, so there's a question. So I will start. It's much more fun when there's question. When did you start drawing yourself as a distinct cartoon character? Well, it was actually when I think it's when I start to it's when I start to do that short stories. When I worked in China to supervise animation, I was taking notes, and then when I came back, I was reading these notes, and I thought, well, some of these could be funny stories that what happened there. And in that magazine that I told you about, Lapin, I remember there was a special subject that everybody have used. Well, a lot of author I've used. It was the catacomb in Paris. So all these people were Parisian, and they were talking about the experience going down under Paris, and talking about their experience. And I thought it was very interesting to see all these people talking on their own, being in the cartoon. I've seen that before in comic books like Mouse and Crumb and all that, and I really enjoy that. And I thought, well, maybe I can draw myself in these adventures or little things that happened to me when I was in China, and I can just draw myself for a short story. That's what I was saying. And then I started a book. I realized after a while that if I do short stories like that about the same subject, China, it could become a book. So that's when I came back from China. And after the Chinese book, I thought, which is called Shenzhen, I thought I'm not going to do that another time because I thought, well, once is enough. It was just an experience. But I actually really enjoyed it. And then I was offered to supervise work somewhere else in Vietnam. I went to Vietnam and I was thinking, well, okay, I'll go in Vietnam and I will make another book about that. Why not? But I didn't stay long enough. And when I came back, I was reading my notes, and there was not much actually to talk about except that it was fun. I had a good time. So for me, that was not enough. If I would have stayed a very long time in Vietnam, maybe I would have made a book. But I realized, okay, well, that's not because I go somewhere that I have stuff to talk about. So let's see, maybe somewhere else afterwards. And that's when I was offered to go to North Korea. Crazy it seems, but at the time, a lot of people were going there in animation. I know like 5, 6 guys who have been there. And I said, okay, I'll see how it goes in North Korea. So after 2 months of being there and taking notes, I came back, and then I thought, well, there's enough material to talk about that crazy country, and I started to do the books about North Korea. So in that book that I'm launching tonight, World Record Holders, there's a few experiences I've tried, because between these traveling books, there was an experience of the first panel. Yeah, so that's me working on. I forgot the book, but I'm working on a book, and then the neighbor knocks at my door, and there's actually a bird coming in my house, and he stayed with me a few days. So I do talk about that, and I was thinking at the time maybe I can use my character and do like kind of everyday little story. So I've done a few. There's actually 2 in that book, at the beginning and at the end. And I didn't make more. It's actually I really enjoy when I did that, but that's how it works. Yeah, for me. I can see another question by Julia asked, do you have a favorite story in this book? It's hard to say, but I think I really liked the ending one. And that again, it's one where I'm in there. The drawing has changed a lot from the first time I've drawn myself. It's more graphic now, and yeah, I really I don't like that one. I like the rhythm, but actually, well, no, my favorite. It's the one about where I talk about my father. So that's when I go to see him before going to Europe, and he explained me how he does spaghetti. Like he cooks spaghetti in a can and he cooks that in the oven. Can you believe that? And I just like the plain style, very graphic, very simple. It's just lines. There's no color, and it's called the spaghetti spaghetti recipe, I guess. So it's like that. It's very simple. It's just 2 pages, and for some reason, I just like the rhythm. It's that very, very simple stuff, and I like the story. The spaghetti story too is funny. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's one of my favorite too. And yeah, this brings back a lot of memories because I started some of these stories way back when I was working. Like this one, actually, it's called Single File. It was in a magazine back when I was working on an island. It was called Reunion Island. It's a French island. It's like a tropical island. It was very interesting to be there. And they had a small magazine, and I had nothing published before. So that's actually one of my first publishing ever. And I've met Lewis Trondheim years after, and he had that story in his drawers. He said, "I've seen that story long time ago. I didn't know it was you." And he kept it because he liked it. And then, I've been working with him so long. He's mainly my director in a lot of books that I've published. So that was fun to see that he actually liked that story a long time ago. So yeah, so what was I saying? And yeah, so some of these experiences were a lot of fun. Like there's one, and I really when I have students who wants to do comics, I show them that one. I've actually just put a drawing on my wall, so you can do with that with a lot of things. It's not in there, but it's in there. So I like that story too. Yeah, it's very simple. So I was just fooling around with drawings with table, coffee, and chair. So it's on this side, and I've put the drawing on my wall. And every time someone would come in my room in that summer, I wouldn't say anything, and they would look at that picture and they would say something. I would take note, and then I just draw all the people who were there and what they said about that kind of surrealistic drawings. And it doesn't make a book, doesn't make a story, but it makes a nice little experience. And whenever I brainstorm with students, it's really incredible. All the stuff you can try and experiment very quickly with just an idea. You can, we can do that. We can just go from one place to another. So that's another question I have often. And do your kids like your parenting books? Well, it has evolved because I've done, and once again, these parenting books, I start with just one story, but that's on my blog, yeah. And then I did another one, and then my publisher said, "No, this is fun. You can, if you can do more, we can make a book with that." So it always starts with the short stories for my case, and then it becomes a book. And my children, yeah, they really enjoy that now. But the first one I've done, it's a long time ago, and my son, because my daughter couldn't read, my son was 9, and he was a bit young to read some of these stories because they were mainly for adults. Not that they're shocking, but the humor is more adults. It's kind of it's not black humor, but it's kind of absurd humor somehow. And so I didn't tell him about the book, and he didn't read it. But then his friends were reading the book, and they would say, "Oh, your father is doing books, and it's actually quite fun." So it was a strange situation. And so one night, one day, I was with him, and I showed him the book, and we read the whole thing together. And I explained to him, I make up stories from what happened in the house, and then I make them bigger. But not all the time. Some of these stories, they're just fun like that in the house. So I just retranscript it. It's not the best one, actually. And yeah, so, and after that, they became older and they was reading it. And they were actually very excited to know the next story. And they would pitch me stories. And that was just the worst because the story they would pitch me were pretty bad. So, "Oh, I have a really good story for the book." And I say, "Okay, go ahead." And then it was just like really, really bad. And I thought, "Well, I'll think about that." So it has changed from beginning, from the first to the fourth one was the last one. So what kind of reaction do you get from people who find themselves depicted and recorded in your books to get back in touch. Well, I'm very careful with that because I don't want to put people in a situation where they don't agree with what I say about them, or they don't want to be there. So yeah, I'm always very shy to do that. I would never put someone who doesn't have, I don't have his approval somehow. Like I asked my brother on the first launching I've done with in that sort with Drawn and Quarter. It was for, well, it was for that book, of course. That was in January. And my brother is in there. And so I told my brother, especially at the end, because I have this situation with my father. I said, well, do you mind if I put you in the book? He said, well, yeah, no problem, I'm honored. But so I've sent him the pages so he could read them before. And I do that whenever someone is mentioned in my book. I remember in the Jerusalem book, there's that priest, very nice guy, and I sent him the pages. And then he said, you know, I'm not supposed to smoke. So he was talking and he had that smoke, because I think he promised to his wife that he would stop smoking, but and in the 2 page where he was in my book, he had a cigarette. So I actually removed the cigarette. So there was a friendly censorship. And if you look at the drawings, he has his hand and you can see there's well, there should be a cigarette, but there's no cigarette. So yeah, I wouldn't put someone in my book without his consentment. And otherwise, he's not mentioned. It's just I turn into like a neutral character who doesn't have a name, and it's just there. So do you get back in touch? Would you talk about the tools that you use, pencils, pens, paper, etc.? Yes, I was planning to do that. So it's actually easy since I'm in my studio, and I have these. If you remember Shenzhen, I was using these. I actually did the book with these pencils. I still have a bunch of them. Yeah, this is what it is. Yeah, these are, I remember from my youth, these are very popular from Canada. So these are the pencils that are wrapped in paper. So you have that little rope and you scratch them, and they are made of wax. And you have the black with the rope and the white. And I would just use the black to do the lines and the art and most of the artwork. And with the white, I could cover them and the smudge. And that was the whole effect I wanted on Shenzhen, because I wanted to depict, that was China in 1997. There was market who were very smelly, and the whole town was very dirty because of the construction. And I wanted to have that kind of smudgy line, to have that that pollution and dirt effect. So I've used that, which is a technique I don't recommend because it makes a nice drawing, but the whole comic book, it's a lot of work because in summertime it gets really soft, and it's like drawing with mascara, and it's hell. It's actually very complicated. I had to sharpen them all the time, and well, the pages are nice, but it's just too much work. And I evolved after that because when I've done like in these stories, you see, most of the time I use just ink, Chinese ink, simple as that, and these nibs, yeah, just like the old way of doing a drawing, because well, these nibs that I can find here in France are, I think this one is a Japanese nib, because I have friends here who are very big on Japanese tools, and so this is probably like a G or whatever. It's like a Japanese nib, and this is a French one because it's a bit thicker, and it works okay. I don't have any very favorites. It's just I like the line quality you have with the ink, but depends on the book I do. If it's a book where like the one where I talk about that kidnapped guy, like hostage. Um, it was different because I wanted to work with something very fast, so I've used just ordinary yeah, these. That's when I sketch outside on little pads. I use these very basic. That's Uniball who does that. So it's just like a rollerball, and it goes very fast, even if you go like that. And I have a thicker one, so it's a bit thicker and a bit smaller. And sometimes I need something even a bit smaller than that. And I use this one here. So this is like a Japanese. So you can get that for $8, and it's very thin. And then you just fill it up with the what they call carbon ink, because it's very tough. The carbon ink is really good. It's very black, and sometimes I have to erase because I still use a pencil on under that. And for paper, I've been using photocopy paper a long time, but it's not good to use photocopy paper because over the time I think it gets yellow. Even though the photocopy paper I have, like these ones here, this is just the one that are in that book. They're photocopy paper, but they're perfectly white. I don't know. Apparently, photocopy paper is not good. So I've used a bigger format now. I've used just a sketch. What is that? I like that one because it's really thin. It's 120 grams. And since I just use it for the drawing, I don't mind to have it very thin like that, because I can use it for transparency. If I have a drawing that I've missed, I can put another piece of paper on top of it and sketch it very quickly. That's how I like to work, yeah. But yeah, every time I start a new book, like what I'm doing now, I kind of have to rethink it over again. It's not like, okay, let's start a new book. I kind of have to redo, like I've never done books before. It's a strange feeling. What do you think about the tools? Yeah, okay, I think we've been through that. Yeah. What else can we say about that? Yeah, when I was doing the the book on hostage, that was different because I was using just photocopy paper because I was drawing just on flying paper like that. So let's see. So yeah, the whole yeah, it's in a box. My whole hostage comic book is in a box now. Because yeah, they are just the way I worked on that is I was doing like sketching a lot of stuff, and they would look like that at the end. So it's just a bunch of sketch drawings, and out of that I would scan at the end of the day, and then choose, okay, this is better, and put the page all together. That was a lot of computer for me, and so yeah, I had these small drawings that I put there, but the idea was to have it a lot of freedom for the drawing. So to have that, I've used these sketching. So it was more like when I do a sketch, I had all these paper, I would scan them, put them all together, like doing a montage, and I would have my page at the end of the day like that. Yeah, I guess I like to change techniques because you start a new book and then you think, well, you know, if I have to do like 200 page with this technique, well, I'm going to improve once and I'm going to try something different. But then you have to think of time. If you know it's going to be a 200 page book, you cannot do something that is going to be too long. So I have that in mind because I don't want to spend 3 years on the book. I spent 2 years, but that's long. So what have you been? Another question here. What have you been reading, watching, or listening to recently, and what would you recommend aside from your own book? Oh, I've read as a comic book. I read a lot of comics, but out of my mind like that, I'm not sure. It's hard. I'll have to think about that. And while I think about that, I can show you my. Uh, wait. Yeah, I've just finished a book. It's coming in September, so that's something else. But I was, but it's a book where I don't do the. It's a collaboration. I don't do the text. It was more for children, and it was done by Lewis Trondheim and Joanne Sfar. They have a series where they have guests for drawings, and I was one of the guests, and it was a lot of fun because it's just 46 page, and I thought, well, okay, if it's 46 page, I'm going to try to have a drawing a bit different where there's more details and more like shadow that I've never done before. So it ended up like doing stuff like that, which was actually a lot of fun because I was drawing ghosts and monsters and kids and cemeteries because it's kind of a fantasy books, but like in a funny way. So it's kind of in a cartoony way. So it reminded me a bit of the time when you work in animation and you have to fit in a certain not style because you can do your own style, but with a whole world because you have all these characters that have been drawn by people before. So you need to have a Bible to understand what's going on, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, yeah, that's why I like to change genres. So stuff I've been watching. Well, I've watched a good film. It's a film from Iran. So as an influence, well, maybe not an influence, but the only good thing I can think about is a film I saw a few weeks ago. It's called Les Nuits de Saleh. So the night of Saleh. Saleh is a city in Iran. It's a holy city, and the story talks about crimes who were happening towards women in the 90s, and so the story talks about that situation, and it goes beyond just that fact, and it becomes like a social documentary about life in Iran. It's really good. I really enjoyed that. And as far as comic books, I just read from what's her name? I forgot. It's in French. It was called "Can We Talk About Something Else?" But I forgot the title in English. Sorry. It's by Rose Shast, and it talks about her two parents getting old, very very old, and then she has to take care of them. It's very serious. It's actually. Can we talk about something else, please? Can we talk about something pleasant? Yeah, thanks. I've just read that last week, and I was flipping through the page, and I thought, wow, there's a lot of text. Look. And sometimes it kind of pushed me away. But I started, I couldn't stop, and it was, well, I've been through that situation with my parents last year, so I guess I was the perfect subject for that. But anyhow, yeah, I really enjoyed that. Okay, what is it? 38. Well, that's about it for me, I guess. So yeah, just to finish with my studio, I start with that. So we are 10 people in that studio here. The only thing we wanted to have is a place to work outside from home, which I really enjoy. I've worked at home in my place for a long time. I've been doing books and all that, And I really enjoy just being in my home, in my apartment, doing comic books. But now I really enjoy being with other people. At lunch, you go, you have lunch with friends, and then you come back, and we all enjoyed having that. So some of them are illustrators, some works. We all works in drawings, but in different areas. Another guy is doing comic books. Two other guys. Some are teacher and doing comic books, and then one of them is just doing illustration. Two of them are doing a storyboard for animation, and one is doing character design. One is more doing manga style stuff. That's a girl. So we have a mangaka, and yeah, all sorts of stuff. And it's nice to just to share what they do. And we don't collaborate together. We all do our own stuff. But yeah, I really enjoy that. So I guess that's it. I'm gonna wrap it up. And so this was the launching of World Record Holder. I'm not used to the title. My new book. And well, thanks for joining. And see you next time for another book. Bye. Yeah.